I think everyone owes Matt Gaetz an apology here. All right, folks, breaking news, emergency video. We finally have a new Speaker of the House. I know many people thought it was impossible. I too was getting to the point where I didn't think it was ever going to happen. But not only do we have a new Speaker of the House of Representatives, to me, it seems like we actually got a good one, which is a very pleasant surprise. So this is, as of this afternoon, the GOP has elected Representative Mike Johnson as the new House Speaker. And if you're like me, you're probably wondering, who the heck is Mike Johnson? I've never heard of that guy in my life. Don't worry, you and I are in the same camp here. So when I first heard the name, I thought to myself, well, since I am unfamiliar with this guy, let me Google what CNN is saying about him, right? It's like you use the mainstream media as a litmus test to who is a real and good conservative and who is one of the neocons, because, you know, you kind of, you implicitly know. If CNN is lukewarm about this guy or even sounds relatively optimistic about him, then you can conclude the neocons won, the America Last globalists got what they want, and this entire process was a huge mistake. But on the flip side, you know, if CNN is slandering the guy and labeling him an insurrectionist and all that stuff, then we definitely got a true MAGA conservative as our House Speaker. So with that said, let's consult the CNN litmus test here. They are describing Mike Johnson as, and I quote, a vocal supporter of former President Donald Trump, very good, and a key congressional figure in the failed efforts to overturn the 2020 election. So already right off the gate, you're probably seeing what I'm seeing. If this is how they are talking about this new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, I think we got a pretty good guy in that seat. But we go on. They're writing multiple pieces about him. Another article here describes Speaker of the House Mike Johnson as having a history of harsh anti-gay language from his time as an attorney for a socially conservative legal group in the mid-2000s. They, go on to say blah, blah, blah here. In the mid-2000s, Johnson's anti-gay rhetoric was harsh. So again, if you're like me, you don't know much about Mike Johnson, that's fine. But I think when you notice that they're calling him a Trump guy, an insurrectionist, they're even throwing out the homophobia line, I think in many ways, if that's how CNN's talking about him, we can conclude we got a pretty good House Speaker. And with that said, I just have to say props to Matt Gaetz. I'm glad we did this correctly, right? Because as many of you guys know, I'm not going to walk anything back. I'm not going to, pretend I wasn't saying the things I was saying. The last few days, I have been very pessimistic about this. It seemed like the neocons were going to win, because obviously they successfully stopped Jim Jordan from becoming the speaker. And when I looked at that, I thought, okay, this is not looking good. But on top of that, it wasn't just that Jim Jordan himself wasn't going to be the speaker. I didn't care whether it was Jim Jordan or not. I just wanted the guy who is the speaker to be a good conservative, right? They were talking about making the speaker pro tempore, Patrick McHenry, the permanent speaker. And if you know anything about him, we reviewed that on this channel before. He was a big Ukraine guy, just total neocon, terrible on the issues. And that would not have been good. It certainly, that actually would have been a downgrade from McCarthy in many ways. So I didn't want that. Yesterday, the nominee for the GOP was Tom Emmer. Donald Trump is vehemently opposed to Emmer. Emmer, from everything I've gathered, is a pretty big rhino on everything. And so it just wasn't looking good, right? It was looking like the neocons were going to get their way, and this huge thing was going to be a total disappointment. But as of last night, from everything I've read, this was pretty spontaneous. Mike Johnson appears. It's like WWE. He appears with the Money in the Bank contract, right? And he's rushing in. He cashes it in, pins him 1, 2, 3. Now is the new Speaker of the House. Obviously, I think the most important question is not what is his past, right? Obviously, it's great that he was and is a big supporter of Trump. It's great that he was a real conservative on many of the different social issues, because, in many ways, that's obviously lacking in the modern GOP. But to give you a little bit of an idea of that, well, this is what Mike has pledged to do so far. So far, This is from Nick Sortor on Twitter. He points out that Mike has pledged to release the full January 6th footage promptly, right? If you remember, Kevin McCarthy made a promise he was going to release that and then released it to Tucker Carlson and never released the full stuff. Well, he has pledged he's going to do that fully. And this is probably the most important thing here. Mike has pledged to kill the omnibus spending bills. Right. And I think that's actually the reason why, we ousted McCarthy in the first place, was because he promised we're going to cut down on the spending. We're not going to make these deals with Democrats and do these ridiculous spending bills. And then immediately what happened, he went and did it. Right. So this is very big. This is arguably, I think, the most important issue right now in Congress, that we cut down on these ridiculous bills where they'll say it's for something like, just to give you an example, the infrastructure bill. And then like 50% of it is infrastructure and the other 50% is a bunch of random nonsense. And then when Republicans vote against it, they say, see, the Republicans are against infrastructure. When no, you have this and this going to that. That's not infrastructure, right? So very important. He has pledged to kill the omnibus spending bills. And as pointed out here by Nick, also is hated by Adam Schiff. So like I said, very unfamiliar with this guy. We're going to learn a lot more about him. He obviously has a lot to prove, but everything we've indicated is that we have got the type of guy as the new House Speaker that we wanted to get. He seems to meet all my criteria here that I've kind of laid out in the past. This is what I want for the Speaker. And with that said, here we go. Right now, time will tell. Okay. In many ways, I'll say this too. I think it's probably a good thing that he's kind of an unknown entity, right? And because I think this is part of what stopped Jim Jordan was he made too many enemies with the neocons, which I'm not saying that was a bad thing. Of course, that's a good thing, right? He's a loudmouth and that's good. That's what I want from congressmen. But in terms of trying to get the votes there and in terms of, I don't know, some people have a certain perception of him, the people who don't like him. I think it's kind of a good thing. Mike Johnson sort of flew under the radar here. He's with us on all these issues. And he kind of, like I said, cashed in that money in the bank contract and is the new Speaker of the House. Now, with that said, now that everything is indicating, we got a good Speaker. This is what we want. Do I like necessarily how long this dragged out? No, but it's over now, right? It's only October. By November 2024, no one's going to remember all this chaos if we can come together as a party right now, which I've said is very important. And with all of that said, I think it's pretty undeniable. Matt Gaetz was right. Right? That's what I said. I said that, look, because when we first did this, a lot of people were giving Matt Gaetz a lot of crap. I said, hold your horses on that. Let our judgment decide, because yes, if we end up with a neocon as Speaker that's worse than McCarthy, then you could chalk it up to saying in many ways, even if it was principally the right thing to do, maybe strategically Matt Gaetz made a mistake here. If this dragged on to January, like some people were saying it would, and we make Patrick McHenry the interim Speaker there, yes, it would go down as a mistake. But now it took how long? 2 weeks or something? Okay, again, longer than we would have liked, but it's done now. We got a very good Speaker of the House for the first time in many decades. Maybe I should hold my horses on that, but let me just say, in the first time in many decades, conservatives have a real House Speaker that represents them. Matt Gaetz is owed an apology. I think he's completely vindicated on this entire process in many ways. And my friend, Red Eagle Politics, who you should subscribe to on YouTube and stuff, he put this out, and I love this. This is the Matt Gaetz apology form, okay? And it says, Matt Gaetz apology form to Matt Gaetz from blank date, etc. And then it says, reason for behavior. Reason 1, conservative media convinced me he was wrong. Reason 2, I don't know how politics works. Reason 3, I missed Kevin McCarthy. Why? Reason 4, I'm afraid of winning. Reason 5, I was jealous of Matt Gaetz. And reason 6, well, you can read reason 6 here. And then it goes down to say, I will hereby respect Matt Gaetz, and I will not talk down on the future governor of Florida. Hey, it's true. It's true, right? I think everyone who said that Matt Gaetz was wrong about this initially is owed an apology, or owes him an apology, I should say. I think this is a very good thing. And with that said, I mean, let's do this, right? Let's do this going forward. Now, what I will say is that, as you have seen throughout the process of this, there are a ton of neocons still left in the Republican Party. In fact, I would argue actually the majority of the Republican Party are neocons in some way or another, right? So I think that means two things. First of all, I would say when it comes to the new speaker, Mike Johnson, obviously he's been thrust into this overnight. I think from everything I've gathered, I think he's a good man, seems to be a religious man. Be gracious, right? Be a little bit gracious, because he has a very hard job in front of him. He has a lot of work to do to unite a very fractured party here. And so, as much as I say I think we got a good speaker, you know, don't sell on him immediately, right? The moment you see a little bit of concern or the neocons are pushing back, whatever it is, again, be gracious, give him some time, give him some patience. Obviously, if he totally betrays us and breaks all his promises, then, you know, that's cause for concern. But at the same time, give him a chance, understand the very tough position he's in, and kind of hope for the best on that front. Number two, I think this process also highlighted that we have a lot of work to do when it comes to primarying the bad Republicans in this party, right? You look at 2022. I mean, we got Liz Cheney out, and I think that was great because everyone's like, oh, Liz Cheney. Well, everyone knows who Liz Cheney is. Mitt Romney is retiring, and everyone knows who Mitt Romney is, and I think he knows he can't win another re-election. But there are a lot of the sleepy, lesser-known neocons that still run this party and are still in this party. And in 2024, we got to do everything with the best of our ability to primary these people. And that's not going to be easy, okay? And let me be clear about that. It's not going to be nearly as easy as some influencers think it is, because, again, everyone knows Liz Cheney. No one knows the random no-name reps who have a very bad voting record that are in line with Liz Cheney, but because they didn't vote for, say, the Trump impeachment or something, no one knows who they are, right? So we do have to put a lot of effort into primarying these people. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to sell anyone any promises, because I saw what happened in 2022 where, yeah, at the top of the ticket, Liz Cheney lost, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of these lesser named people that are very bad, but people are not super familiar with, they just got over. Fox News kind of ran cover for them, and they got in, right? 2024, we need to do our best to get these people out of the primary. It's not going to be easy, like I said. But with that said, folks, again, to recap here, we have a new Speaker of the House. Matt Gaetz is vindicated. Very good speaker in Mike Johnson from everything I'm seeing. And let's look to the future now, okay? Let's all come together. Kumbaya. All right, with that said, folks, let me know what you think of Mike Johnson in the comment section down below. Do you think Matt Gaetz was right? And until next time, Alpha Moves Only, God bless. Have a very good day. We'll be live tonight, by the way, 8 p.m. Eastern time, so be sure to join us then, and peace.